Hi there, welcome to the Liverpool Hope University International Q&A. I know there's only a couple of you on the webinar at the moment, so I'll make a start in a second, and hopefully we have a couple more people joining us. I believe the chat function is off at the moment, so if you do have any quick questions, if you want to send that through into our Q&A box, and then I can start working my way through them as we go on. Okay, I think we'll make a start. So hopefully you can see my screen okay. Do let me know if you're having any problems seeing what's on there at the moment. My name's Katie. You may have come across me when you're making your application to Liverpool Hope University. I work in the international recruitment team. So if you do have any questions about the application process, your particular course that you've applied for, anything along those lines, do let me know and I can try and help you out with that as well. So I know that you're likely to be a firm offer holder and that you've already made your decision on, whether or not you're coming to us as a firm choice or an insurance choice. There are a couple of people, however, who have yet to make a decision on that, who maybe haven't responded to their offer, or maybe who have put us as their insurance choice, but a little bit unsure whether or not that was maybe the right thing to do, I guess. So just a quick presentation before we get onto the Q&A section. Hopefully this will give you something to work towards to better understand your position at the university, and hopefully give you a bit more of an insight to what to expect in September if you haven't been researching this already. So who are we? We are a relatively small university based in Liverpool. We are one of, I think, 4 or 5 universities in the city. So again, it's a really popular student city, and we are just one of many of those universities. So we are actually top 2 in the UK for percentage of academics with doctorates. So when you come to Hope, you know that you are getting, a very high standard of teaching, and that kind of is backed up by the TAF Gold Award that you can see there as number 2. This is something that is basically awarded to universities in the UK based on their teaching output, their teaching excellence, so how well they are able to get students on board with their lessons, and what that means for students once they've graduated, their opportunities, and the knowledge that they've taken from their degree. So gold, silver and bronze, as you can imagine, and we were rated TAF Gold a couple of years ago, which is great. And I guess tied in with that as well, you would expect that student support would be quite high. For us, every student is kind of treated as an individual. Everybody tends to know everyone once you're on campus, but particularly your academics and your lecturers. They are going to be with you pretty much for your whole 3 years of study at Hope. So your learning style, your writing style, how much support you may or may not need is going to be really key in their delivery of the lessons and the course. So they will know you individually, and it just really helps students make sure that they get the most out of their degree really when they're at Hope. When you feel supported and everybody knows you and understands how well you learn, and how well you don't, I suppose, it just makes for a better experience really of studying your degree in the UK. Therefore, we're quite a friendly campus. We have 3 main campuses, which I will come on to show you in a second. And again, because there's accommodation, because your tutors will be based on those campuses, you will know a lot of familiar faces. And I think it really just helps, particularly international students, feel a lot more settled and a lot more welcomed onto campus. So hopefully you will too. And we're quite a historic university. This image that you can see on the background now, you will see a lot of. This is one of our main buildings on the main campus. And this particular building dates back to 1844, so it's a very historic campus, very pretty. A lot of people will describe this particular building as the Harry Potter building as well, for obvious reasons. So there's lots really to explore once you arrive on campus in September. And just to reiterate a few things again, you may have seen these statistics if you've been doing your research. These may have been the reasons why you chose Liverpool Hope. But again, our TAF Gold framework, top university in Liverpool, and quite a high percentage rate of students in either employment or further education 6 months after graduating. So just a couple of things to bear in mind, potentially for those who haven't yet made their decision of whether or not to firm or ensure Liverpool Hope as one of their choices, or just for people that have, just again as a quick reminder to reiterate some of the things that may have been your decision maker. So 3 campuses again. Most students will be living and working on Hope Park, which is this campus that you can see here. This is where most of teaching happens. And again, there's library, cafeteria, gym, that sort of thing, all based on this campus. Now, most students will study here because a lot of students who do combined courses as well, if they're doing quite a creative subject, but they're combining it with something like history or English or PE, they would still be based up here. So you will still have a lot of students back and forth between campuses, and therefore this becomes the most used campus. Now, because it has got all of the teaching facilities on board, the gym, the library, it means that there isn't as much space for accommodation. So even though you may be spending a lot of time on Hope Park, this particular campus, you may be living on a different site, which I will come to explain in a second. There are halls of residence on this particular campus, but of course they're kind of limited in number just so that we can, use the space as appropriately as possible. All students are guaranteed accommodation in their first year. So you don't have to worry about not getting a place. It just might be the case that if you've yet to apply and you come to apply quite late, you may be based somewhere else. But again, we can discuss that in a little bit. Then we have the creative campus. So if you're doing something like art, design, drama, music, you will be based on this campus. It's kind of like a scaled down version of Hope Park. So there is still a library, a cafeteria, there are still halls of residence, but again, limited numbers. And there are specific facilities on this campus. So we have black box theatres, we have art studios, we have music production labs, that sort of thing. So the reason that we would have students who are doing more creative subjects based on this campus is because they have the facilities they need to, properly fulfill their degree and to get the most out of their degree as well. We wouldn't necessarily place an art student in a kind of a normal classroom on Hope Park that we would use for philosophy or sociology because it just doesn't have the facilities. So if you are studying on this campus and you want to go up to the main campus to use the slightly bigger library or visit friends, that sort of thing, there is a free shuttle bus that goes between the 2 campuses all day from 9 till around 6 p.m, which is when most classes will run. So if you wanted to time it around that as well, you can do that. Now, the additional campus I mentioned, if you aren't living on either of these 2 campuses, Hope Park or Creative, because they're teaching campuses, you would be based on Egworth Park, which is solely residential. So this is kind of like a mini student village almost. There are no classrooms, there's no teaching, it's just living facilities that pretty much look just like this. And we can obviously have a lot more students, we can accommodate a lot more students on this campus. And they range from first year undergraduate students who may be from the UK, to international students doing study abroad, to postgrad, to postgraduate teachers, that sort of thing. So it's quite a big campus, there's quite a lot of different types of students based on this campus, and it's quite a busy place as well. So it's a nice hub for students to be based if they aren't on either Creative Campus or Hope Park. I don't necessarily kind of say definitely go for this campus. If you want to be based on Hope Park, you want to be based on Creative Campus, that's fine as well. We will try and base you, where you're studying and where is going to suit you best. But again, it just really depends on when you apply for accommodation. Similar to the creative campus, there is still a shuttle bus from Egbert Park to Creative Campus and Hope Park, the two teaching campuses, so that you can get to your lessons on time. Again, if you were studying a combination degree, so art and English, and you needed to study on both of those campuses and live on Egbert Park, again, there is still facilities to get around to each of your lessons. You won't necessarily be studying 2 subjects on one day, so you don't need to be between 2 campuses in one working day, and then you can simply return back to Egbert Park of an evening if that is kind of how it worked out for you. Within each halls of residence as well, we will have a community room. As you can see on the bottom left there, we have what we call the Trinity Room on Egbert Park. So a lot of celebrations will take there, a lot of gatherings when you first start and when you first get to campus. You will have a bit of an induction evening in either the Trinity Room if you were based on Egbert Park, or if you were in one of the halls of residence on the teaching campuses, you would have a common room where again you would all get together to have a little meeting when you first move in. Again, a lot of celebrations, as I mentioned, so you know, whether it be kind of Christmas or we've had celebrations in there for things like the Super Bowl and Diwali and all these lovely celebrations that students want to bring everyone together for. So these spaces are really good to meet people, to make new friends, but also to kind of share anything that you have and that you want to kind of share with the wider group. So the City of Liverpool, I'll come to show you a map in a second of where roughly those campuses are and how you can reach them. But the Creative Campus, I suppose, is good to know, is based in the city centre. It's kind of quite close to things like galleries, museums, that sort of thing. So it really just balances out with the courses that are offered on that campus. So if you're doing art, music, that sort of thing, you need to be close by galleries and museums. So it's really well located. Hope Park is maybe sort of 20 minutes from the city centre. But again, I will show you that on the map in a second. So as I mentioned at the start of the presentation, it's a really popular city for students. In Liverpool, there are roughly 50,000 students across the 4 or 5 universities. So you'll be amongst very similar people from all over the world, really. It's a very international city. It's also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The docks, the Liverpool docks, are a heritage site. And of course we have things like the Beatles and the football and that sort of thing as well. So there is plenty to do and see depending on what it is that you are interested in, and perhaps visiting things that you'd never really normally go and see. I know in the UK, when people move to Liverpool, they might not have been the biggest football fan, or they may not have been the biggest Beatles fan, but you want to go and see these things and you want to learn about it. So there's plenty to see when you do arrive. It is a very affordable city. It's quite cheap, the cost of living, compared to other cities, particularly places like London, Birmingham, Manchester. It's still very well connected to all of those cities. That are direct trains. I think the train to London is pretty much bang on 2 hours exactly, maybe sort of a couple of minutes over. Manchester is about 45 minutes away, and again Birmingham is about an hour and a half. So it is a well-connected city, but it is considerably cheaper in comparison to other local cities and popular destinations for international students to study. And kind of following on with sort of the culture aspect, we actually do have one of Europe's oldest Chinese communities, and a lot of the history of Liverpool is quite evident in the streets and some of the more further out parts of the city that you wouldn't necessarily spend time in when you're shopping and that sort of thing as well. It's one of the safest cities to live in the UK, and in 2008 we were awarded the Capital of Culture in the UK. It kind of changes year on year, but for us it was just over 10 years ago now. And we've been voted one of the kindest cities and Traveller's Choice Award as well. So again, really popular destination for tourists as well as students, just because of the culture, and it's quite a small city, I would say. You're not having to travel for miles to see different landmarks and different points of interest. It's all really quite close and well located. So again, transport around the city, it's very cheap and very easy to do. We of course have two cathedrals as well, which is one of the more interesting parts of the city. We have the Anglican and we have the Catholic Cathedral, which you can see at the top and the bottom there. And the likelihood is when you graduate, you will graduate in one of those cathedrals. They are very beautiful and you can see them for miles around the city. And if you get the chance to go up to the top of the cathedrals and view the rest of the city, again, it's an incredible view. So maybe music and sport isn't really your thing, but architecture and history we have plenty of in Liverpool as well. And of course, shopping. We have Liverpool One, which is our main shopping destination, whether it's kind of food shopping and getting groceries or just generally browsing the shops. Everything is located in Liverpool One, and it kind of spans out as well into places like Egbert, which is where Egbert Park is based. So you're always close by something, whether it's amenities, shops, laundrettes, banks, that sort of thing. Usually throughout the year as well, Liverpool will have a lot of celebrations. So we will have our Chinese New Year celebrations at the start of the year, as you can see in the top right there. We have plenty of festivals throughout the summer. And a lot of the spaces in the city centre, places like Bold Street, which is that middle image there, they're quite pedestrianised. So it's a very open city centre, lots of space to walk around, and you're not sort of having to navigate anything too tricky. It's quite open. And there's a lovely quote there from one of our students who was on study abroad with us this year just gone, who says, "Liverpool has slowly become a place I call home. As the clocks keep ticking, I know that I will miss it every day when I go back home." So it usually has quite an impact on our students, and I think hopefully when you arrive in September, you'll be able to see some of those reasons why. So the map I mentioned before, just to give you kind of context of where all of our campuses are, where the city is in comparison to other cities in the UK. On the right hand side, you can see kind of a scaled down map of Liverpool. Now, point number one is our Hope Park campus, the main campus, the biggest one. Number two would be our Creative Campus, the smaller arts-based campus in the city centre. And then number three is Egbert Park, which is the solely residential campus. And as you can see, between the three of them, there is a free shuttle bus. It makes quite a nice little triangle around the city. And I think to do kind of, one way or the other, it usually takes about 20-25 minutes. So it's not too far of a connection to travel from wherever you're living to wherever you're studying. And on the left-hand side there, you can see where Liverpool is based in comparison to the rest of the UK. Again, Manchester, as I mentioned, 45 minutes. Manchester would be the closest international airport. We do have an airport in Liverpool. It tends to serve Europe and the wider UK, so Northern Ireland, Scotland, London, if you wanted to fly instead of getting the train. Southern Ireland too, to Dublin. And as I say, a lot of Europe is covered by our airport in Liverpool. But if you wanted to travel internationally, it would be Manchester you needed to arrive to and from. And again, London there is 2 hours and 12 minutes, so it's just over 2 hours. And Birmingham, about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. So it's quite central, well located, as I say, and a lot of students do find in their first couple of weeks they like to travel and kind of see what's around the city anyhow. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of groups and opportunities to sort of meet with people and kind of get an idea of where you are in the UK and see a little bit more. Okay, so a couple of things to think about then moving forward. If you've already made us your firm choice university, fantastic. There are still things that you can be doing, thinking about, but this is kind of just an overall idea of what to do next for those who maybe haven't, again, made their decision or who have put us as their insurance choice. So do your research, make sure that you have a look at all of the universities that you have nominated on UCAS. So whether they're offering webinar series, whether they are able to show you kind of a virtual open day, a virtual campus tour, that sort of thing, really make the most of those opportunities, because at the moment that's probably the best way that you're going to be able to gauge whether or not you would feel comfortable at university and whether it's the right university for you. Confirm your accommodation. Obviously, if you haven't done that already, now is your time. You can apply for halls of residence until quite late, really, in the cycle. but we would advise that you apply for your halls of residence as soon as possible, mainly because, again, if you don't apply in time, you may not get the halls that you're wanting, that you're interested in, and it just makes it a little bit easier if you can apply a bit quicker. At the moment, you may be waiting a couple of weeks to find out your particular hall as well and your particular room. And as we get closer to September, that can be a little bit frustrating. So again, the quicker you put in your application, the quicker you'll know, really. Speak to other students. Obviously, there are forums out there, things like the student room, webinars like this, where you can get to meet people who are also attending the Hope University in September. We have a Facebook new starters page, which will be really beneficial to get yourself on, to attend, to sign up to. Students from all over will be on the Facebook page, and if you can access it, it's a really great way of kind of getting some answers to questions you maybe hadn't thought about, or again, meet people that might be living in your halls and just get a bit of a better understanding of what to expect in September. If, as part of your application process, you're still maybe waiting for things like your English language to come through or anything like that, or if it's a little bit more technical advice you're looking for, a lot of the information can be found on our website or by contacting our admissions team. Now, obviously, we can put you in contact with those people and we can point you in the right directions. But just as a brief overview, if it's things like English language, we are accepting IELTS Indicator and TOEFL IBT Home Edition, which of which IELTS Indicator is now available in 81 countries and territories. So there's no need to panic or worry about, okay, I don't know where to make my application. I don't know what to do just yet because I haven't received those types of qualifications, or I don't know where to start looking, because it can all be done virtually now, and we will be accepting those two particular tests. And if there's any information that you wanted to know about things like, coronavirus, how that's going to affect the university starting in September, please do read our website, our webpage there. You should have been sent some information anyhow if you have made us your firm choice. You should have received some information a couple of days ago, just outlining really what to expect for September. But again, any questions, any concerns, you can email us directly and we can have a bit of a conversation with you about that as well. Okay, so questions. I know I've just received a question a little bit earlier on. Okay, so we have a question about CAS. Now, our international visa and compliance team are currently still working through all of the CAS nominations. It depends really on how quickly you pay your deposit. That deposit obviously then triggers the CAS process. So until we've received that and until that's been processed, the CAS process won't be triggered. In terms of kind of once that's been issued and the CAS has got to you and you can start your visa processing, then it becomes something that you may need to liaise with UKVI for. So if you have paid your deposit and you're still kind of waiting for that CAS to come through, what I will kind of suggest is that you contact our visa and compliance team in the university, who can then liaise with UKVI for you. And their email I will put in the Q&A box so that you can email them this afternoon if that's kind of easy enough for you to do. Obviously, we can have a look on that on people's individual forms, but you would probably need to drop us an email if you want us to look at it individually for you. If that helps, again, I'll just put it in the Q&A chat. Okay, lovely. So yeah, any problems with UKVI, as I say, our international admissions team can get in contact with UKVI and they can contact our own visa and immigration processing team. But usually once you've paid your deposit, it's quite a quick turnaround. So apologies if anybody is still waiting for those sorts of things. the university, a lot of the teams at the moment will be working from home. So it might just be a case that it's taking them a little bit longer to process that working from home. But it should be underway if you've already paid. Lovely. So if anybody has any more questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A box. If there is anything that you maybe want to discuss or talk about that you maybe don't feel comfortable, sharing in a Q&A on webinars, that sort of thing, please do email us as soon as you can, if you're able to. You should have our email. It's just international@hope.ac.uk, but we will be able to contact you via email if there is anything that you are a little bit uncertain about. So we've just had a quick question about the start date of term. Now, as I mentioned before, you should have received, if you've made as your firm choice, some information from the university on that. Essentially, we're making all preparations for September. So at the moment, our preference is to be teaching face-to-face, but in accordance with kind of making sure that everybody is safe. Where this isn't possible, we'll try and use a mixed model of teaching. So that will be face-to-face and it will be online delivery. Whatever model is used, whether it's solely face-to-face, whether it's solely virtual, or whether it's a mix of both, your kind of academic standard and the quality of teaching will remain the same. But for the time being, we are making preparations to welcome students on campus at the end of September. Usually we will start term, it's like the last Monday of September, which I think is the 28th this year. So the 28th of September is a Monday, and obviously if anything changes, if we are unable to deliver sessions on that Monday, you would be informed before you arrive, and we would make arrangements to either do some face-to-face teaching or some virtual teaching, or kind of moving it all online. Basically basing it around safety and whatever we feel is the right thing to do at the time. But as I say, currently we're planning to go ahead for the 28th of September. So we just had another quick question through about quarantining. This is something that will be based off whatever government advice is. So again, we will have preparations in place to ensure that students can quarantine for 14 days. Obviously, we may need you to arrive a little earlier than standard, so you have time to quarantine and then begin your studies at the same time as everyone. Again, if you've made as your firm choice, we will be contacting you about that, depending on what government advice is a little bit close to the time. Obviously, we're coming to the end of June now, so hopefully by July, August time, we should have a better understanding of government advice and whether or not that will be necessary. If it is, we will have space on campus to be able to do that, and we would contact you directly as a firm offer holder or as an insurance offer holder to make sure that you're aware of what is going to be required for you. So please keep an eye on your emails, please keep an eye on things like social media, just so that you're well informed when we do come to contact you if we need to. So quite a good question here. Someone's asked, is it worth coming later due to the current situation? Now, if you're starting an undergraduate program that is due to start in September, I'm not entirely sure whether or not you would be able to begin your studies in October or November, because the term date has already started, and if it's virtually, it started virtually. So we don't offer any undergraduate entry routes other than September. So if you were wanting to start an undergraduate, you would have to come in September. If you're looking at doing postgraduate, obviously we offer January intake as well. So if you've yet to make an application or you've yet to confirm your response for your offer. It's entirely up to you whether or not you want to look at maybe reapplying, I guess, or deferring until the January. If you're doing postgraduate, obviously, as I mentioned, undergraduate is quite different. The situation is bettering in the UK, and I think globally as well. We're starting to get there. Things are starting to turn around a little bit. So it's not a decision that we can make for you or that we could necessarily advise you on. It's really up to you and how comfortable you feel with it. But I guess just know that obviously September would be the only real start date for undergraduate programs. Postgraduate does have a little bit more leeway if you wanted to change your current start date, really. If you don't have any questions at the moment, or if there's anything that you can't think of right now and maybe you're just kind of taking it all in and listening, but you think of something a little bit further down the line, again, please do make sure that you email us or you respond to any emails that you might have had through our admissions team or through the recruitment team and myself, my colleagues, because we will be available to talk with you. If you want to arrange kind of a one-on-one meeting, we can do that as well. I understand that there's a lot to take in at the moment, and sometimes it's quite hard to think of questions on the spot or to think of anything right there in the moment. So if there is anything that comes to mind later on, please be aware that you don't have to ask all questions now. You can ask them later as well. Lovely. So another good question, what kind of jobs are available for students on campus? Quite a lot actually at Hope. So a lot of students tend to work either within the library, the cafeteria, or as a student ambassador. Student ambassador is a little bit more of a as and when job. So if you're looking to pick up work or shifts that fit around your working pattern quite nicely, then something like being a student ambassador would be fantastic. Student ambassadors tend to work for the recruitment team and for the wider university on things like open days, applicant days, when we have visits to campus, so summer schools, that sort of thing as well. Working with, again, the university, but also external providers who come on campus to show them around, talk about your experience, and to be a bit of a signpost and a bit of a helping hand, really. So that's usually a very popular position with students. I think that's probably the largest pool of work that students will find on campus. But as I said, you can also work within the cafeterias, the library as a library monitor, lots of opportunities to get involved in different things. It really depends on what your timetable is and what you're hoping to get out of it. If you want to be working quite a lot, you can always make sure that you pick up more shifts and, maybe you're a student ambassador and you work in the library, that sort of thing. It's entirely up to you, really. Once you're on campus and you're able to log into your online portal, even if we weren't teaching online, all of our students' records and reading lists and, kind of where you submit your essays, assignments, it's all online. It's all on something called Moodle. Once you have logged onto that and you're registered, you can access through that what we call Hope Works. And Hope Works basically helps you look for work opportunities, it helps you apply, and your kind of application gets sent around all of the different departments that you choose in the university. And then when they start recruiting for ambassadors, library monitors, that sort of thing, you'll be contacted to be able to do an interview and that sort of thing as well. So once you're on campus, plenty of availability to get in contact with someone about starting a part-time job on campus. If you're looking for a part-time job in the city as well, of course, we still have people that can help you with that. And again, when you look to come to graduate and you're looking for work, as a graduate, we have lots of services for graduate opportunities. We have our careers and employability team who are there on hand throughout your university journey, from the minute you start to the minute you leave. And even once you have graduated, they will still be able to keep in contact with you to let you know about maybe internships, part-time work, give you some advice and some skills and that sort of thing as well. So it's not just part-time work and then that's it. It's kind of a whole range of employability and career opportunities that you can discuss and that will be offered to you once you arrive on campus. It's unfortunate that I can't really show you around the university because I could have sort of pointed out where they are, but on our main campus, Hope Park, they're based right in the Gateway building, which is our kind of foyer really of the university. And so you'll see them all the time. You'll pass them, you'll know who kind of works in there, and you'll be able to just pop in and chat. You don't necessarily have to have an appointment to go and talk about careers. It's an open door policy. Another question about online classes at home. Obviously, if we will be teaching online completely, then I'm sure for a short period there will be a time when you don't necessarily need to be on campus. That's a question that I'm personally not too sure about at the moment, but I can definitely get some more information on that, and hopefully either get that to you directly, or that will be sent out in our correspondence over the coming weeks. I'll make a note of that question and I will get back to you directly with the answer. Once I found out anyway, we're running a couple more of these webinars, so if you wanted to pop in and discuss anything, then you can do that as well. But I'll try and get that over to you directly. Thank you for the question. We've had someone ask, are all postgraduate studies done on the main campus? Yes, they are. Unless you were doing something like MA Performance, for example, you might be based on the Creative Campus, but pretty much all of our postgraduate studies will be based on Hope Park. So I guess make sure you're familiar with that particular campus, and make sure that once you're on campus, you're aware of all the facilities and the opportunities available to you, whether that's careers again, or student support, learning support, that sort of thing. And to follow up that, yes, if you are planning to stay in private accommodation, we guarantee accommodation for all of our first year students. It doesn't necessarily mean they need to live there. Some students don't want to. Some students want to live in their own private accommodation. Maybe they have friends, family in Liverpool and they want to live with them. That's absolutely fine. Same goes for postgraduate studies, or students, sorry. If you are studying with us and you want to live in private accommodation, but you're still looking to be a student ambassador, that sort of thing, that's absolutely fine. You can definitely do that because you are a student at Hope. Obviously, if you were maybe kind of living at another university and wanting to find work on campus, that might be a little bit trickier. But because you are a student of Hope, regardless of where you're living, it doesn't have to be in halls of residence, it can be anywhere, and you can definitely still find work on campus. Lovely. Yeah, following on from that, can you advise on the safest area to get accommodation outside of the campus? Absolutely. Personal experience, the area of Egbert and sort of the Sefton Park area are really, really lovely areas to live. Very close to shops, banks, all of those things, but they are very safe. A lot of students who will live on Egbert Park in their first year of studies will move out to the wider Egbert area and the Sefton Park area once they have kind of gone into their second and third year. The city centre is also really popular with people who are looking to live outside of halls. At the moment, the city's undergoing quite a lot of renovation. There's a lot more private accommodation available. The city centre is also a very safe option for living, outside of halls of residence. Again, you're close to a lot of shops, transport, that sort of thing. But most of the private accommodation in the city centre, if it's an apartment or if it's an apartment block, will have security, and they will have people who you can talk to, and you can rely on, that sort of thing. Obviously, if you're in your own housing, a house is very different, a house share is very different. But if you're looking for private rented accommodation in the form of, again, an apartment, a studio, flat, that sort of thing, usually they come with security anyhow. A lot of the places in Egbert and the Sefton Park area that I mentioned before, they're more likely to be houses and house shares, but it is a very quiet part of the city, but it has really good connections back into the city centre and also back to the campuses. If you were living close by the halls of residence as well, you might not need to pay for transport to get to campus, because you might be able to walk to the free shuttle bus and get up to Hope Park with all the students that way. So things to consider. There are definitely forums online about kind of where is the best place to live, that sort of thing. One thing I would say have a look at is on our website we have accommodation pages, and we have YouTube videos of the city and of more student places to live outside of halls. So have a little look on our social media, have a look on our website, because there will be some more information there as well. Once you're on campus as well, it's probably quite good to note that the accommodation team and the Students' Union can help you look for housing and make sure that you're looking in the right places, that you're going to be safe, that the landlords are, okay, and they check out really. So if you were concerned about anything like housing and whether or not it's safe, please speak to our accommodation team first, because they'll be able to help you. Just a couple more questions. Let me just sort through them. So let's have a look. So we've got a question on social work and the placements. The placements, I know, tend to not necessarily outweigh the teaching, but it's quite equal. In terms of exactly where those placements will be, how long they will be for, there is more information on our website about kind of the curriculum and what to expect from the teaching on the campus. We do actually have a virtual open day and a virtual applicant day coming up. We have a virtual open day on Friday, and we have a virtual applicant day coming up in the next couple of weeks. It would be advisable to go to one of those events. I know you may have already made your firm choice with Hope, and so you're coming, but just to be able to hear and see the academics, Zoom webinars are free. You don't necessarily have to kind of fit a certain criteria, but it just means that you can speak to those academics. Equally, if you wanted to speak to an academic one-to-one about what to expect from placements, any uncertainties that you might have, if you can email international@hope.ac.uk, which is my team, we can put you in contact with the academics, and hopefully they'll be able to get back to you and arrange a meeting, or at least give you an idea via email of what to expect. So there's plenty of options to discuss. Yeah, and that will follow on, I think, from the second question there about the blended approach. Obviously, if you're doing a placement, that placement is separate from teaching. If you're learning on campus and you're only doing campus-based activities and you're not doing any placement, then you're not going to be needing to worry about whether or not you're doing face-to-face or virtual. If you have got placements, it's understandable that you might be concerned about whether or not you'll be able to fulfill those placements. What I would say is, obviously at this point, we don't necessarily have kind of any information on that as yet. Well, I personally don't from my team. But what I would say is, because those placements are external, it's up to the external provider. So if the external provider is happy for you to still carry on your placement because you're not necessarily coming into contact with, you know, large numbers of students, of young people, of, you know, families, whatever it may be, then you might still be able to continue with your placement. It might not be a problem at all, and it might be the case that your teaching side at Hope is virtual, but your placements still go ahead. So at this point in time, again, it depends what government advice is a bit closer to you starting your placement. When you arrive on campus, the likelihood is you'll be spending a couple of weeks anyway learning in the classroom before you are let out on placement. So your placement won't be immediate, and you will know whether or not it will be virtual or whether or not it will be, you know, personable. Good question, actually. But we would have more guidance on that once the term started. And again, it would be up to the external placement provider to decide whether or not it was still safe for you to attend your placement. Yeah. So I'm just conscious of the time. We've got roughly another sort of 10 minutes. There does seem to be a lot of questions asked. They are actually really great questions, so thank you very much for sending them through. Again, if there's anything that you want answering directly or personally, please do email our international team and we can get back to you. But if you do have any final thoughts, or if there's anything else that you want to send through very quickly, as I say, we've got roughly 10 minutes, so do let me know. And again, we will be running another webinar for international applicants in July. So if you have any unanswered questions, or if you feel like there's something you didn't ask and that you should have done, you can always come and revisit in July as well and make sure that you get those questions asked. So another good question, is there pickup facility for international students from the airport? If you would like to request pickup, that would be the international hub who arrange those sorts of things. So what it would be best doing, let me send you their email, because it would be best to discuss with them. Usually their team personally will go out to airports and sort that out. So let me send you their email and it would be best to contact them. I know from previous experience, that the international hub team have done that, but I'd be unsure how they organise it, so I wouldn't want to give you wrong information. If you aren't looking to get pickup from the airport, you can get there is a train that goes directly to Liverpool from the airport, from Manchester Airport to Liverpool city centre. And there is also, you can get a taxi. I think you can get the bus, but I think it would be best if you were to get the train, really, if you weren't looking for airport pickup. So there are lots of options. You don't have to rely too much on airport pickup if you didn't want to, if you didn't feel comfortable. Once you're in the city centre of Liverpool as well, if you do get the train from the airport to the city, obviously we can have people who can signpost you, who can meet you at the station, that sort of thing as well. So depending on where you're coming from. Okay, someone coming from Heathrow International Airport. What I would advise then, it's definitely advisable if you're coming from Heathrow or a London-based airport to email our international hub team and discuss with them the best option moving forward. I know in the past that they have done pickup from Manchester Airport, but I wouldn't know if they've done the London-based airports just because it is quite far. So again, if you could email them Their email, again, I'll just pop it in the chat, is internationalhub@hope.ac.uk. And they will be able to discuss with you your options if you're coming in from a London-based airport. Manchester obviously is quite nice and easy, it's not too far away, so that wouldn't be a problem, but they might just have to have a look into London. But thank you for asking. Just noticed someone's just popped the hand up. If you could just type your question in the Q&A, that would be a little bit helpful, a little bit more helpful. Sorry. Do let me know your question in the Q&A box. If there has been a question that I was unable to answer, and I may have typed you sort of an email back, could you just raise your hand if you're happy for me to contact you directly to get you the right answer? So if I, am able to email you, do let me know if you're happy for me to do that, and then I can obviously, I know I had a few questions about sort of placement and staying in your home country and doing things virtually. If you're happy for me to contact you about that, if you could just raise the hand function and let me know, that would be great. So question on part-time jobs. We did briefly mention that before, but basically when you arrive on campus, you will have access to what we call Hope Works, which is an online portal that allows all students to apply for jobs on campus. So whether that be as a student ambassador, attending events, open days, that sort of thing, whether it be working in the library, in the cafeteria, in the Gateway building, which is kind of the sort of the front desk, forward-facing part of the university, you can apply through HopeWorks. Now, there is advice, there is guidance, you can submit an application on there to all of the types of jobs that you're looking for. If it's not necessarily that you're interested in and you want some help at looking at part-time jobs off campus or after you graduate, we have the Careers Employability team who are based on Hope Park, and who can contact you, or you can go in and see them. You can drop in, usually their door's open for you to just have a wander in and have a chat, and they can discuss with you all of your options for things like, employment, part-time work, internships, volunteering, that sort of thing as well. So it's not just part-time work on campus, there's a whole range of employability skills that we can help you understand and navigate once you're on campus, to boost your CV, to boost your employability rate, that sort of thing as well. Obviously we have quite a high employability rate, so it just goes to show that students do use these services, and we'd actively encourage you to do the same when you get on campus. If it's just part-time work you're looking for, though, we can absolutely help you with that when you arrive. And as I say, HopeWorks is probably the easiest way to find more information about that. But you can only usually access that once you've registered, so don't worry too much about sorting that right now. Okay, fantastic. So as mentioned, any of those questions I was unable to answer, if you are happy for me to contact you, again, if you can raise the hand button at the moment, that would be fantastic. But if there's anything that you are uncertain of, anything that you want to talk to us directly, myself or my colleagues, please do give us an email, international@hope.ac.uk. You should have received some correspondence from us anyhow, so you should be able to email us no problem. And we can have a chat to you via email or again via Zoom if that works for you as well. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a better understanding of what to expect. We have just had one last question. What assistance do you provide in finding private accommodation? If you don't know anyone in Liverpool, again, our admissions team can help with our accommodation team can help with that. They really do like to help students when they're looking for accommodation. They would rather you talk to them, because it's quite tricky to find things on your own, and they know a lot about accommodation in Liverpool, what's safe, how to go about it, how to apply. So please contact the accommodation team. I will send you their email now. They are really keen to make sure that everybody knows they are available to help you find accommodation if you're not living in halls. If you want private accommodation, they'll definitely be able to point you in the right direction. Again, if you're able to join the Facebook New Starters group for Hope, there will be people on there who are living in halls of residence, who are living in private accommodation, who are doing postgraduate, undergraduate, who are home, who are international. So it's a really good place to answer questions and speak to people who might be in a very similar situation to you, because it just makes things a lot easier when you arrive on campus in September. So if you are able to access that, I would definitely encourage you to do so, just so that you have somewhere else to, as I say, speak to someone and ask the questions that you need answering. Lovely. Well, that concludes the webinar for now. As I say, if you want to join us again in July for any other questions that you may have, or just to catch up with myself and the team, my colleague Michael will be running that session, then please do. Thank you for your questions. They've been brilliant, and it's also been quite informative for myself. So again, if there's anything that you wanted answering directly, I've taken a note of kind of who's happy for me to contact them directly, and we can get that sorted as soon as possible. Make sure you keep up to date with us via email if there is anything later on in the day that you think about, and we can talk to you over email as well. Thank you for attending. Hopefully speak to you all soon.